continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Vav Amud Aleph Meseches Shabbos. This is Shabbos Daf 106a. The Gemara continues with a statement of Rabbi Yochanan: Yid'agu kol ha'achin kulan. If one of the brothers dies, then all of the brothers should be worried. Echad mivnei chabura shemeis. If one of a group of a chabura dies, tidag kol ha'chabura kula. The entire group should be worried. Amri lo demeis gadol. Some people say that the worry specifically happens when the oldest or the most important of the group dies. V'amri lo demeis katan. Some say it's when the youngest or the least important. Rashi explains, Yedagu yiru min hamisa. Everyone else in the group or all the other brothers should be afraid of misa, should be afraid of death. Demeis gadol. Some say it's when the gadol dies. Yesh lidog. That's when you should worry. Hoel v'shalta midas hadin barosh havayis. Because the midas hadin has now ruled over the head of the household, and everyone in the household should be worried. V'amri lo demeis katan. Some people say it's when the katan dies. Shebiklala maschilin min hakatan. Because in general, when it comes to curses, when it comes to klala, we begin from the katan. The Gemara now continues at the two dots. V'chol mekalkalin peturin. The Mishnah said that all mekalkalin, all destructive acts on Shabbos are pater. Tani Rabbi Avo kamid Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Avo taught in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Kol ha-mekalkalin peturin chutz mechovel umavir. All mekalkalin are pater except for chovel, wounding somebody on Shabbos, and mavir, burning something on Shabbos. According to Rabbi Avo, those cases are chayiv even if they're done in a destructive manner. He feels those two cases are an exception. Amar Lei, so Rabbi Yochanan said back to him, Pok Tani Livra, go teach that outside. That's not true. Chovel and Mavir ain't a Mishnah. Chovel and Mavir are not a Mishnah. Rashi explains, ain't a Mishnah. Dimekalkalu Pater. Rabbi Yochanan says, you're for sure Pater. They're no different than every other case. All cases of Mekalkal are Pater, according to Rabbi Yochanan. Our Mishnah, and if you're going to say that this is a significant teaching, chovel b'tzarech lekalbo, mavir b'tzarech leafro. When it comes to wounding, you are chayiv when the person has the wound, creates the wound for his dog, and mavir is chayiv when he burns something specifically because he requires the ashes. In other words, when it's really done for a constructive reason, for a constructive purpose. Rashi explains, b'tzarech ledam hayotze min hachavol lekalbo. He's making a wound because he needs to give the blood from the wound to his dog. True that he's being destructive when it comes to the person being wounded, but there is a tikkun, there is something constructive happening with regards to the kelev, with regards to the dog. So basically Rabbi Yochanan is saying, even chovel and mavir, they are chayiv only in situations where you can find something constructive going on. So the Gemara asks, doesn't our Mishnah say explicitly that all mekalkalin are pater? It goes against Rabbi Avo. Rashi says, all cases, even chovel and mavir. This is a question against Rabbi Avo. How could Rabbi Avo say there's an exception for chovel and mavir? So the Gemara answers, Masnisin Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah, which says kol mekalkalin peturin, follows the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Braisa Rabbi Shimon. The Braisa which Rabbi Avo taught follows the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Now Rashi here has two explanations of what it means that Rabbi Yehuda holds there's no exception and you're always Rabbi Yehuda holds that you're always pater, there's no exception, and Rabbi Shimon holds there are exceptions. Where do we see this in Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon? So Rashi says, Masnis and Rabbi Yehuda, the Islam mekalkal bechabura pater. Rashi says that Rabbi Yehuda holds mekalkal bechabura is pater. He holds all mekalkal are peturin. Velo isparish hecha. According to Rashi's first explanation, we have no idea where Rabbi Yehuda said this. All the Gemara saying it over here. The Gemara simply saying Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon argue. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there are no exceptions. Kol mekalkal and peturin, even chovel and mavir. And according to Rabbi Shimon, there are two exceptions. Chovel and mavir could be chayiv. But now Rashi offers his own explanation to this. Veli nira, he says, to me it appears as follows. Masnis and Rabbi Yehuda, our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda de Amar Malacha she'ena tzricha legufa chayav alev. We've quoted before many times. Rabbi Yehuda holds Malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. If you're doing a Malacha not for its normally intended purpose, for its normal intended goal, you are still chayav. How does that relate to mekalkel? Hilgach therefore chiyuva de chovel b'tzarach lekalbo umavir b'tzarach leafro mashkachasla. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you, let's say, created a wound because you need the blood for his dog, he needs the blood, or he burned something because he needs the ashes for some purpose, that can be a case. The afal the mekalkel who eats the malacha atzma, even though regarding the malacha itself it is destructive, mesakin who eats lacherim, there's a tikkun going on for some other goal. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can look at the other goal, and that's still called a malacha, because there's some tikkun going on for this other purpose. But Rabbi Yehuda holds if there's no tikkun whatsoever, you would be pater. In other words, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Kol mekalkel in Peturin. You're always pater when it comes to mekalkel. Chovel umaver can be chayiv because you can imagine a case where there's a tikkun for some other goal, and Rabbi Yehuda takes into account other goals. That's his whole point when he says malacha she'ein tzricha l'guf is chayiv. Okay, now Rashi just concludes. V'afa gav de reisha de masnisin ukim de Rabbi Shimon the katani koreal meso pater. Even though we already said on the previous amud that the first part of the Mishnah follows Rabbi Shimon, koreal meso is pater. Say for Rabbi Yehuda, you're going to have to say that the beginning of the Mishnah is Rabbi Shimon and the end of the Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda. Ubraisa Rabbi Shimon. And Rashi continues according to this line of thinking that the Braisa follows Rabbi Shimon. Diamar malacha she'ein tzricha l'guf pater. Rabbi Shimon holds malacha she'ein tzricha l'guf is pater. Hilkach ein la chovel umaver she'ein mekalkel. Every single case of chovel umaver is going to be destructive according to Rabbi Shimon. Va'afilu umaver eitzim liktei ras, so mekalkel eitzel eitzim. Even if you're burning wood in order to cook something, you're still mekalkel the eitzim. That's some other goal. Umashu mesaken eitzel achem. That other tikkun, that other goal, Rabbi Shimon lo chashiv. Rabbi Shimon doesn't count other purposes, because that's in the category of malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa. It must be, Rabbi Shimon holds that these are exceptions. You can do a destructive action when it comes to mekalka, when it comes to chaval and havara, when it comes to chovel u'mavir, and that's still going to be chayiv. That's Rabbi Shimon who holds that these cases are exceptions. So the Gemara now continues to elaborate upon Rabbi Shimon's source. My time with Rabbi Shimon. Well, what's the reason of Rabbi Shimon? Where does he see that mekalkel b'chabura and mekalkel by mavir is going to be chayiv? So the Gemara says, "Midi itzrich kra lemishra mila." The pasuk goes out of its way to say that mila is okay on Shabbos. Hachovel bial machayev. The implication, so it's really learned from a pasuk. The implication is that in general, chovel on Shabbos is chayev. And again, Rabbi Shimon says the only way you can imagine it is that even if it's destructive, it's going to be chayev. And the other source, when we do asa rachmona havara gabe bas kohen, the halacha is that if a bas kohen commits adultery, she's chayev misa, she's chayev sreifa, burning. And again, we learn out that the Torah says that you're not allowed to do this havara on Shabbos. Shema mina ma'aver bi'al machayev. You're not allowed to do that havara on Shabbos, and that shows you that havara in general is chayev, and that's why it's a problem. Rashi over here says, "Mida itzrich krov hayom hashmini b'yom yisera v'afilu b'Shabbos." The Gemara learns out that the word bayom is extra, and you can do it even on Shabbos. Umila chovelhu, and mila is a wound. Mechlal d'shar mekalkelin b'chabura chayev. That implies this is okay, but others are going to be chayev. Umida asa rachmona havor the bas kohen b'Shabbos. The Gemara says that havor of a bas kohen is osir on Shabbos, and that must be because havor is problematic. And again, you see that havor, even in a destructive manner, is going to be chayev according to Rabbi Shimon. So the Gemara says Shema mina ma'aver bi'al machayev again. So we see from there that ma'aver bi'al in general is chayev. Now, what does Rabbi Yehuda do with these sources? For Rabbi Yehuda hasa misakenu. Rabbi Yehuda says in these cases it's a tikkun, because again, Rabbi Yehuda holds, according to Rashi's understanding, that if you can find some kind of tikkun, even if it's for a different purpose, for a different goal, that's going to count. And what is the tikkun over here? Rav Ashi, like Rav Ashi says, the Amar Rav Ashi says, Mali l'saken mila, Mali l'saken kli. What's the difference if you're being masake a mila? That's a tikkun. And if you're fixing a kli, that's also a tikkun. These are all tikkunim. Mali levashel psila. What's the difference if you're cooking the psila? That's talking about when you're doing this death penalty, the sreifa. Mali levashel samanim. What's the difference if you're cooking the samanim, which are used to make the dyes in the Beis Hamikdash? Rashi says, Mali misakin kli hanami misakin gavru. Bris mila is a tikkun to the person. V'yesh malacha b'tikkun zeh. There's a malacha in this tikkun. Bishul psila shu madlik psila shel aver. He's being madlik a psila of aver, that's lead. V'nos lasoch pia. He's putting that burning lead into her mouth. This is for the death penalty. But derech bishul zev chayev ala bishul sheina mekalkel aver b'bishula misakin v'tzorif. This is a kind of a tikkun. Samanim shel malachas hamishkan. So therefore, again, the samanim also, it's a constructive purpose. So therefore, that's how Rabbi Yehuda will understand these sources. But Rabbi Shimon will say, no, these sources show you that mekalkel in these two cases are chayev. The Mishnah said shir hamalabe, and the Mishnah gave a shir for whitening and doing various things with the wool, and it was the shir was a sit kafel. A sit kafel again is the distance we're going to see in the Gemara now, but basically it seemed to be the distance between the index finger and the middle finger. So Rashi says Rav Yosef machvi kafel. Rav Yosef used to indicate the shir by showing a double shir. Rav Chia Barami machvi pashat. Rav Chia Barami was able to show the shir without having to double it. Rashi explains what that means. Rav Yosef machvi haya sit kafel the masisim kafel kafel mamish berevach kotzer shebein etzbol amma. Rav Yosef would stretch out his basically his index finger and his middle finger. He would stretch it out. Mishar shnei pamim. He would say you have to do this twice. So this shear 2 times. Whereas Rav Chia bar Ami said ma'achli pashut. He said he showed the shear berevach shebein godel etzba. He would show it from the distance between, showing like this, the distance between the thumb and the index finger. Pam echad hu kafel, and that is the exact shear. You don't need to double that. The masnisa sheyesh bo keflayin kaoso shebein amal etzba. In other words, the point is the distance between, if you have the distance between the index finger and the middle finger like this, if you double that, it's going to be the same distance as this, and so it's just a question of how you show it. It's the exact same shear. It's just a question of how you demonstrate it. Rav Yosef would demonstrate the shear and say double this, and Rav Chia bar Ami would demonstrate the exact shear. Gemara continues with the Mishnah. Rav Yehuda says, Hatzad tzipor lemigdol, if somebody traps a bird into a migdol, which is some type of a closet, utzvi labayis, or he traps a deer in a house, chayiv, that's called trapping. The point being, according to Rav Yehuda, that you need to get the bird into a smaller, confined space. Rashi here explains, Hatzad tzipor shechniso lemigdol, you need to get that bird into a migdol, chayiv, then you're chayiv, Dezuhit say daso, because that's considered trapping a bird. If you trap a bird in a house, that's not considered trapped. Sheyotze lo derech chalonos. The way Rashi explains, not that necessarily the size, but the point is it can get out the window, and therefore a house is not considered trapped. The Chachamim say tzipor lemigdol. They agree a bird is trapped in a migdol, and we'll continue with the statement of the Chachamim in the next video on Daf Vav Amud Beis.